you ask most people on the street, they would probably say they'd rather not live in an area where natural disasters are a real possibility. But all over the world, many people do.
Well, there are killer hurricanes in the South Pacific, deadly earthquakes in Latin America, and monstrous tornadoes in Texas and the Midwest. Yet people still live in these areas. They go about their daily lives and seldom think about the possible dangers.
The same holds true in the area around Mount Vesuvius in southern Italy, the site of one of the worst volcanic eruptions in history. In 79 AD, the entire city of Pompeii was buried under a river of hot lava when Mount Vesuvius erupted. Thousands died, and the city lay buried for centuries.
Like people living in other disaster-prone areas around the world, those living in the shadow of Mount Vesuvius today hope that modern technology will protect them.
As you'll see in this next CNN story, they need protection. Experts warn that the volcano is sure to erupt again.
On a summer's day, tourists trek by the hundreds to the summit of Italy's Vesuvius, perhaps the world's most famous and deadly volcano. They peer into a smoking crater that is quiet now. Flowers grow on its crusted surface. A souvenir shop on the rim sells photo postcards of the last eruption over 50 years ago now. Lava Madonnas compete with other souvenirs, benign and peaceful. It was a different story on a summer's day in 79 AD when Vesuvius exploded in an eruption that was short, deadly, and massive. A foaming wave of ash and gas spewed down its slopes at an estimated speed of 100 kilometers an hour. It engulfed everything in its path, including the thriving town of Pompeii and its terrified inhabitants. As the foam cooled, it hardened and the bodies disintegrated, leaving cavities that archaeologists fill with plaster. The results are ghostly impressions of people in the moment of agonizing death. Thousands died and Pompeii lay buried, an almost perfectly preserved moment in time. The 79 AD eruption was the most famous, but one in 1631 killed thousands, and most recently in 1944, 28 people were killed. Scientists say the volcano is still active and has the potential to kill again. This is a modern-day Pompeii. Torre del Greco is one of dozens of towns that ring the base and creep up the slopes of Vesuvius. Some 600,000 people live in the potential hot zone, making it one of the most densely populated volcanic areas. Vesuvius may sometimes be obscured by the haze, but people in the region say they are aware of the danger, even if they refuse to move away. It's not easy to just pick up and leave because we fear Vesuvius, says this man. We have roots here. The Italian government has devised a plan to evacuate all 600,000 residents and want to test it out next year, holding what could be, in effect, the world's largest fire drill. The government spends $1.3 million a year to monitor Vesuvius's every hiccup. Scientists can't predict when the volcano will erupt again, but they predict they will be given an early warning. Historically, the volcano emits violent earthquakes in the weeks before it blows.
We know that there have been earthquakes, many earthquakes per day, starting a few months before the eruption. So we hope that we will be able to understand that something is occurring a few months before.
There are also ambitious plans to control lava flows by digging ditches and erecting concrete barriers, as was attempted when Mount Etna erupted in 1992. But by and large, those efforts failed. Scientists say there is really little that can be done if Vesuvius, like Etna, were to erupt again, except give people enough warning to flee for their lives, a chance the residents of Pompeii never had. Gail Young, CNN, Pompeii, Italy.
Natural disasters don't always come in the form of volcanoes or hurricanes. The ruins of Pompeii are suffering a slower destruction due to the long-term effects of rain, wind, and sun.
In this next CNN story, you'll see how the wear and tear of tourists visiting Pompeii is also taking its toll. In order to preserve the historic site and the ancient frescoes decorating its walls, The Italian government is taking a very creative approach to preservation.
It's been struck by volcanoes and earthquakes. Now ancient Pompeii is threatened with a new crisis, daily wear and tear. One of the best preserved Roman cities in the world, Pompeii was buried by the volcano Vesuvius 2,000 years ago and dug up 200 years ago. Archaeologists say it's facing destruction once again. Houses are overgrown with weeds and covered with green mold. Paintings are cracked and fading.
The walls are exposed to water and rain. The sun beats down on the frescoes. It's continuous damage, and we don't have the personnel or funds for ongoing maintenance.
Excited scholars who see it as a deprivation.
The 2 million tourists who visit the site each year are also wearing down the structures. There used to be dozens of well-preserved homes open to the public in Pompeii, but over the years, authorities have had to close all but about 10 of them. But now, Italy has devised a controversial way to raise the $2 billion needed to save Pompeii. It plans to sell the marketing rights to streets and individual houses to corporations from around the world. The companies will pay for maintenance and restoration of the properties. In return, they will have exclusive rights to the images for use in advertising and marketing. There is a precedent. The Vatican sold the rights to the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel to a Japanese television company that paid for its restoration. The Italian government hopes a similar scheme will work for Pompeii and that its beauty will not once again face an agonizing fate. Gail Young, CNN, Pompeii, Italy.
New technologies offer the hope of better predicting natural disasters. These advances will help us save lives. They may also help us save important cultural artifacts.
And if businesses contribute their financial support like they're doing in Pompeii, we may be able to preserve even more of our world's treasures for future generations.